Hey Book Dragons, welcome back to my channel. Today we are discussing Breach of Peace by Daniel B. Greene. Roll it. So I recently finished Breach of Peace by Daniel Greene, and I'm really excited to talk with you about it. I actually read it in one day, actually in a few hours of one day, so it didn't even take me a whole day to read it. It's a really short book. It's a novella. It's probably 125 pages, really easy read, and it is the first novella of 3 novellas that he has planned. So this is the first one, and he has 2 more, I think, before he actually embarks on his major novel. So these are kind of prequels or set in the same world to the story that his novel is going to be set in. So pretty interesting way to lead out the door with a few novellas, and I think it's cool. It sets up the story well. So we're going to talk a little bit about Breach of Peace here in just a few minutes. Make sure you stay till the end of the video, and I'm going to have a few more things to say. This is going to be a spoiler-free review, so no worries if you haven't read the book. I'm just going to touch on it in very broad strokes, okay? So let's get right to it. Breach of Peace is set in a industrial era world. At least that's what I could gather from it. So you know, you've got weapons, you've got explosives, you know, you've got firearms, things like that. And the book opens on the scene of a murder that 3 detectives, well, actually 2 detectives are called in for, and then another detective shows up on the scene. I will say right out the door, Daniel Greene hit us with it. This murder was grisly, and I mean just really super gruesome. I was like, whoa, that's pretty intense for the first scene in a book. But it worked. It fit the story well, and it was a really good introduction to what was set to be a very intricate and bizarre at times tale. So we happen on the scene of the murder, and 2 detectives who happen to be husband and wife, Inspector Clyde or Detective Clyde. Maybe it's Inspector. I can't remember, but anyway, Detective Clyde and her husband Samuel are called in to investigate, and Samuel is just returning from a case that he was working abroad somewhere else, and so Clyde shows up on the scene first, and then Samuel returns and joins her shortly thereafter, right at the beginning. And they're going through and picking apart what's happened at the scene and trying to figure out what's going on and who's behind the murders. And then another detective shows up on the scene, Detective Chapman, and he is one of those highly driven, extremely standoffish, extremely annoying at times individuals who just gets under your skin, and it seems apparent that maybe he doesn't necessarily intend to be that way. He just comes off as arrogant and cocky, and you know, he's going to take care of everything. He doesn't need anybody else. So that he's an interesting character, and so the clash dynamic between Clyde and Samuel and Chapman, it's really strong, and it's really evident, and I think it sets up their characters well. For what little information we get about their characters, you know there's a history of some kind between Chapman and Samuel especially, but also Clyd. So they try to work together to solve the mystery, and as they get into the catacombs and wine cellar of the house that the murder took place in, they have an encounter of uniquely weird and quite scary proportions for our characters. And the action is just like really nonstop. It's very interesting. It's very unique. It felt very Lovecraftian in many ways. You have your detectives set in this industrial era society, and then you have creatures that come on the scene that feel very Lovecraftian, and so you can definitely see where some of Daniel's influences were pulled. I even saw some influences from First Law in certain places by Joe Abercrombie, and Daniel has taken some of these things and weaved it and crafted it in his own unique way. So I will say I was quite impressed. I was kind of leery of all the hype around the book because Daniel's a really popular booktuber and he is very good at his job. And I always enjoy watching his videos. And yet there's always that subtle doubt, if you will, I guess, that his skill in one area can translate into a different area. Now, granted, I think he's been writing these stories for a while, even before he really became popular on YouTube. I could be wrong, but I believe so. And anyway, to wrap it all up, what my first impression was okay, I'm going to read this book. I'm going to give it a shot. He's a new author. I want to support him, so I bought the novella, but I wasn't quite sure what to expect. And wow, was I wrong about my initial impressions. This was actually a really, really good book. Surprisingly so. Like I said, I wasn't really sure what to expect, how high quality it would be. Yeah, I was really impressed. For a debut author to bring this kind of quality to his first release, yeah, I was definitely impressed. And the book definitely left me wanting more. Not only was it a page turner, really quick to get through, but the ending was a super ginormous cliffhanger. So now I've got to wait until Daniel releases his next novella in the series, and I understand it may not even be until the end of 2021, maybe even mid-2022 before we get another book from him, which is understandable. It takes a while to write these, so I'm definitely excited to read more. I gave the book 4.5 stars, personally. And that's high for me, especially for a debut. It touched all the bases for me. Action, character development. Even for a novella, the character development was there and I thought it was solid. The plot was really interesting. It kind of revolves around this society that worships I don't know if it's an actual god or if it's a person who has been elevated to the position of deity by the populace. He or she is just always referred to as the Almighty, and the police force work for the Almighty. So it's kind of a theocracy, if you will. Everything is kind of ruled over and governed by this one deity. So the plot was really, really solid. There were a few sentences that kind of felt off, like they didn't really fit in either this type of story and even in this setting. But even at that, it didn't really bother me. So yeah, it touched all the bases for me. For a novella, again, the world building was decent. I would have liked to have learned a little bit more about Clyd and her husband's backgrounds, and the way the book ended, being a cliffhanger. I know I'm going to get more answers, but I kind of didn't totally like how the ending played off. It was good. It was a really solid ending, but I kind of wish it hadn't ended the way it did in some respects. So I highly recommend that you read Breach of Peace by Daniel Greene. I was really pleasantly surprised at how good it actually was. So make sure that you pick up Breach of Peace by Daniel Greene. I will leave a link in the description below where you can check him out and not only buy his book, but also check out his YouTube channel. I think if you enjoy learning about books and discussing books and you're not watching Daniel's channel, you're sorely missing out. He is one of the most popular booktubers around for good reason. So go ahead and check him out. Links in the description below. And that's about it for my review today. Let me know what you thought in the comments. Have you read the book? What are your thoughts on it? Make sure to keep it kind of spoiler free, or if you're going to do spoilers, make sure and announce it properly and space down a few times to put your notes in. But I would love to discuss it with you. Hit me up on my Discord. I'm really trying to ramp up my community on Discord. And so if you have not joined my Discord, it's time for you to do so. Link in the description below. And there's a Discord free book club that I'm part of as well. We are currently reading Jade City for the month of May by Fonda Lee. So if you'd like to join in on that, or just kind of bask in the radiant glory of other book lovers, check out the Dragon's Library Book Club as well. But that will be all I'm going to say about that. In my next video, I'm going to do kind of a April wrap-up, what I'm currently reading, maybe talk a little bit about books that I have planned for May. As I've said before, I don't really do TBRs, but I thought it might be cool to try my hand at a wrap-up. I used to do videos about books I'm currently reading, just to kind of give a list of the books I'm reading and tell you my thoughts on them. So this will kind of be a modified version of that. So that's going to be my next video, and I hope to do a few more pretty cool things here in the next future. I am going to do a video fairly soon on nerdy collectibles that I enjoy having. I am a minimalist, yes, but I do collect certain things, a small amount of things anyway. So stay tuned for more on my channel. Make sure you're subscribed and all that good stuff. And most importantly, guys, make sure that you are reading more books. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. Bye.